Welcome friends. In the sequence of our discussion on analysis and points of analysis, focal areas of analysis, we are going ahead with competitors analysis after customers analysis, which we saw in the preceding session. Yet again a very important aspect. Definitely customer is the king, but competitor is someone who is actually seeking the attention of that king as well, and I am referring about direct competition. But there are many forms of competition, and we have to see that what kind of an analysis is relevant, or what kind of a reference point of competitors analysis is relevant for a product manager. Here we are looking at competitors analysis with the point of view of a product manager. What is competition? You have heard this word many times, we have talked about this as well. You see, competition refers to the rivalry among sellers trying to achieve such goals as increasing profits, market share. Now, that is one of the focal points of competition, and you see market share can be seen with reference to the product based market share, the category based market share. We have talked about category analysis as well, and you see the competition is related to sales volume as well. Now, there are varying elements of marketing mix which are the focal areas for competition: price, product, distribution and promotion. It is wherein the product vying for customers by the pursuit of differential advantage. So, competition is related to a product like you, like that of yours, vying for the same customer with some differential advantage. Imagine 200cc bikes, and the competitor is giving a differential point. So, as simple as that. Imagine two similar pencils also, they would also try to differentiate it, probably with the help of a color as well. So, you see that is where a differential advantage comes into picture. Now, the other element is related to economic theory or economics at large, wherein various competitive states such as monopolistic competition, oligopoly, perfect competition, monopoly are delineated based on the degree of control that sellers have over price. So, that can be looked at with this perspective as well. And when you look at this this spectrum with reference to economics based understanding, then there are several aspects on direct product competition, some indirect competition as well, share of pocket competition as well, and so on. And in strategic section, we would be talking about diversification, we would be talking about an integral perspective on developing a line and so on, and that is where this competition based understanding comes in support of the product managers who wish to strategize aptly with reference to their product. Competitors analysis system is comprised of a larger framework wherein primary data, secondary data lead to key questions. Who are those competitors? They are apparent competitors, they are strong competitors, they are competitors who are coming from all the sides. I remember that many detergent manufacturing organizations wouldn't have thought of Ghadi as a strong contender when they were rising, and believe me, they actually came up with full force, taking a good portion of market share. Nirma wrote history, as we all know. So, you see that is where when we say who are they, what do they want, what kind of a bracket they are looking for, how they would be actually going for newer customer and taking the existing customer from my customers. what are the competing product features, how are they different than us basically, what do they want, what is the current strategy, how are they actually approaching. Many a times, many organizations, those are neck to neck as far as their fight goes, very straight fights like Coke and Pepsi. They tend to, I feel that they tend to monitor their communications as well, means the communication of the competitors. I remember an interesting campaign wherein someone said, they are the official partners to a sports event, and someone said nothing official about it. So that was a campaign given run by both of them, wherein they were actually competing in terms of their communication as well. Then comes in differential competitors advantage based analysis, that is, who has the competitive product advantage. And when there is a low differentiation product, then the perspective around the product becomes the point of differentiation. There are millions of examples like that. When there is a huge differentiation in terms of product, then definitely you have larger aspects to look for. Then comes in, what are they going to do? Now, this is again a $1,000,000 question, like customer analysis. The $1,000,000 question was that, would the customer buy again, would he come back to me, would she come back to the product she has been purchasing. And here, what are they going to do? A top secret which they are keeping to their hearts. Would they be revealing that secret? If they are revealing that secret through their products which are being sold, then we can't do anything. We have to assume their steps. It is like watching a match like referee, wherein you are having your eyes on the ball and the player is moving the ball, let us say a hockey player, and as a referee you are monitoring the rights and wrongs also, everything, but your brain is telling you that this person is going to do this. Or let us say, if you are not a referee, you are just a keen spectator. So, can we develop that kind of a science and art which can enable us to assume that what competitors would do? When I talked about customers analysis, I told you that we must develop an art of reading the hearts of customers. Here I would suggest that we should develop an art along with scientific procedures to read the minds of competitors. There are several sources of information in terms of competitors analysis to which can back us up in terms of analyzing the competition. There are primary sources like Salesforce and employees, ours as well as theirs, because sales team, they meet each other somewhere. Suppliers, some suppliers might be exclusive, some suppliers might be common, some retailers might be exclusive, some retailers might be common. So, you can get an idea from them. Customers, the biggest source of information, consultants, specialized firms, investment bankers and many other sources. And then there is a huge source base in terms of secondary data. Internal sources, local newspapers, annual reports, patent filings, business press, government, electronic database, news release, trade associations, promotional literature, internet, trade press, consultants and customer communications. But one thing which is common here is that if we look at all the sources, we might get a feel that these sources would tell us something wherein we would react to that. But in today's extreme competitive environment, that would be too late. So, what is the answer to that? And if we focus on putting all our energies in predicting what competitors would do, that would end up wasting lots of money and lots of energy as well. So, we have to create an intelligence level of putting up several kinds of scenarios in front of us and be ready for those scenarios while building up product strength around our products. And we have talked about elements of strength. I would be talking about branding based strength in due course of time in the subsequent sections. And you see, once we have strength, we have processes, we have procedures in place, and we have scenarios. And as soon as we preempt a particular scenario approaching, we go by that either in a reactive way, or we go for a different scenario and we go proactively through a different route while bypassing the competition or surprising them with our move. That is what one product manager must do. In many cases, it is easier said than done. For example, you have an automotive manufacturing, so you have to have very long procedure, or let us say before time kind of an analytical perspective, wherein you are thinking in let us say in terms of next 5 years or next 10 years, looking at technological factors and environmental factors and almost everything, and going for a strong life cycle and positioning perspective and potential analysis all through, wherein you have flexibility in terms of lesser costs and a larger consumer base. Definitely you can think in terms of shorter time spans as well. You see, forces which govern competition, or let us say which are directly related to competition and competitors analysis. Again, I talked about Porter's 5 forces contribution in almost everything which we are thinking in terms of when we are looking at a competitive world. Although there are many wonderful different kinds of models and philosophies which are relevant and apt beyond this competitive perspective, wherein for example blue ocean is there and so on, but here because we are focusing on competition, this is a very relevant and apt kind of a model which supports us. See, in how competitive forces shape strategy, Michael Porter in 1979 distinguishes 5 basic forces which govern competition in an industry. The threat of new entrants, I have talked about that earlier as well, the threat of substitution, and when I talk of substitution, it is not alternatives. So, we have discussed this, just revisit that. Substitution, something fulfilling the need which might not be the same or similar kind of a product. So, substitution, the bargaining power of suppliers, the bargaining power of customers. Suppliers means if they are lesser suppliers with a larger resource base, so definitely you have to be dependent upon them. Bargaining power of customers means that if customer is powerful and they have several options in terms of substitutes in front of them, or let us say they do not require your product so much, and rivalry between current competitors depicts while getting associated with the factor of their interaction, mutual interaction. So, this is the framework in front of you, forces governing competition, wherein the source is Baker and Hart 1989. Now, you see a very interesting structure and a framework wherein factors influencing competitive success. So, here we are talking of in 5 forces, we are talking of influencers, or let us say forces affecting competition, and here we are wondering about factors influencing competitive success. Genuinely, whenever we talk of factors, environment, technology, society, those kind of elements, they are always imbibed there. But here a very important aspect for us to understand is that which of the factors have to be chosen prominently to have a concentric value for leading others along, or for considering others along in due course of time of decision making. For example, environmental factors, as I said, rate of technological change, nature of competition, intensity of competition. Now, would it be the concentric factor, or let us say strategic factor would be the concentric factor? So, here in the boxes you see that all these boxes are directing towards business performance, but what if we put up some sequential relationship between the boxes? That is what I am referring to as far as concentricity of factors. For example, strategic factors, long term objectives, strategic time horizon, product market strategy. I referred to Tata's and several other organizations which have been doing exceptionally well in due course of time. While I was referring about portfolios, I referred about SBI as well. I would be talking about strategic perspective of Tata's in terms of diversification later on. I will be mentioning that example in my subsequent discussions. But again, strategic factor is many a times concentric to others. Then comes in managerial factors, communication, attitudes, leadership style. We can talk at length about leadership style and attitude perspective if you just start naming people who have led successful organizations. There are great stalwarts business leaders who have done wonders in terms of making things happen and writing history in terms of several product successes. Just go to the websites, think in terms of people who would have made differences in terms of leading the organizations into different kinds of trajectories. So, there you would find this as the concentric factor, while strategy subsequent to this one and environmental understanding might be accompanying this one, and so on. So, you see the point which I am trying to make here is that factors which influence competitive success, they have a correlation within themselves, and the story starts from somewhere. So, it is not that all of them come all together, it is that one may instigate the other to come in. Then comes in marketing factors, new models, availability of new models, models which might not be selling well, quality issues, and so on. So, several marketing factors are there, wherein for example, a successful model definitely can take you to a different kind of a trajectory in terms of customer acceptance and so on, and it can pull the situation towards a different kind of a scenario. Organizational factors, size, structure, culture, manufacturing capacity, and so on. So, there are, for example, an organization which is extremely innovative, that cultural perspective would be dependent upon the leadership style. Yes, it would be, and that would become a strategy by itself. For example, an organization which has a very horizontal kind of a communication structure or no hierarchy, every person is responsible for what they do. Do we have those kind of structures? Yes, we do have those kind of structures. So, that also is dependent upon how leadership style is actually nurturing these kind of organizations and environment, wherein there is no hierarchy, there is lots of innovation, and then that itself becomes a strategy and so on. So, you see, that is how this influence perspective works. Should we always compete? Now, I mentioned about blue ocean, wherein you bypass the competition, you go to non-users, but here I would talk about something near to competition, because we are focusing on competition as such and competitors analysis through the eyes of a product manager. Although a product manager, in consonance with his team or her team, in terms of production and marketing and so on, they can think in terms of blue ocean as well, but here we would be focusing on some elements like co-opetition. Now, you see, these are evolving terms wherein cooperation and competition both exist. So, you see, there is a name for the mix of competition and cooperation as co-opetition. There are many reasons for competitors to cooperate. It can be a way to save costs and avoid duplication of effort. If one party is better at doing A while the other is better at doing B, they can trade skills. Is it happening somewhere? It is happening in many places. Are we concerned about it? No, because for us they are competing organizations. Us means customers. So, customer is many a times not bothered about that who is providing technology to who is providing very specific component of similar looking product to whom. That means, many organizations who are technologically advanced, they provide specific component to their competitors as well. Their competitors are purchasing that component to save on their costs and research and development efforts and so on, and this organization is getting a customer in terms of their competition basically. Why are they nurturing the competition? They should not provide the component to that organization, so that organization might not do well at all and they would win the market. It is not like that, because despite of the fact that they decide not to provide the component to their competition, they might not be capturing whole of the market actually. So, to pull the industry up, to believe in healthy competition, cooperation can be a strategy. It definitely depends upon political aspects, how countries want to help each other. For example, one country wants to make inroads into the market of the other country through some organizational product, and they ask this, that you sell your final product as well as supply technology to one of the local organizations by nurturing them as well. So, that can also be the reason. There can be several reasons actually. So, will cooperation give away our competition advantage? That is what we are discussing here. Neither party has a special risk, but the parties combined can create value. And there are several examples. Apple and Google during COVID-19 collaborated on few things. Should we always compete? And again the question remains, but we have to ponder upon some more points. Let us say both parties have special skills and sharing puts them both ahead of their common rivals. Now, enemy of an enemy is your friend. That can be, although it is not right. There are several legal aspects in several countries on these kind of things basically, but again many a times just to look at a very large competition, you may cooperate on some basic things which are legitimate, which customers do not mind, which do not actually combine a branding effort. Mergers, acquisitions are other things. So, you see in 2013 Ford and GM agreed to share transmission technologies, for example. So, that is how although many other organizations, they did not enjoy that kind of technology sharing advantage, and that is how these two organizations, they kept on growing by with this kind of an association. Then again another point is, one party has a strong competitive advantage and sharing only heightens it. Even so, less powerful parties are willing to cooperate. So, you see, Amazon gives rival sellers on Amazon marketplace access to its customers and warehouses, because they have customer in the form of their rivals themselves. Those people, they require marketplace, and here they are generating almost $50 billion of the company revenue comes from this segment. So, which is huge, and one has to take a call on such kind of benefits. Again, another element is that one party shares its secret competency to reach another's customer base, even though doing so carries risks for both the parties. Samsung's decision about whether to sell Apple its new Super Retina edge-to-edge OLED screen for the iPhone X is a good example here, and then whole lot of a story is there. And then you see, the point is that probably customer would realize that ultimately Samsung has a higher technological capability, although these kind of things have yet to be tested in due course of time, because I as a marketing student do not find Apple's brand image being hit by this kind of an association, because Apple is very confident about their brand image, and they know that what brand strength do they have. Probably Samsung, while going for this kind of an association, would not have thought of that kind of a marketing advantage which might come to them. That is also there. You see, they would have gone for a business deal which is pure business in as far as character goes. But while looking at such kind of a situation, we can think of such kind of competitors analysis perspective or competitive advantage as such. So, cooperation is an overall win-win, but splitting the gains is a zero-sum game. The solution is relatively straightforward when there is an even trade, but harder if the trade is uneven. So, you see, at this particular stage wherein we are wondering about competition, and we have talked about direct competition perspective, co-opetition perspective, and I briefly mentioned blue ocean framework to bypass the competition. I would slightly highlight that for completing this portion of discussion, because we talked about non-users in our earlier discussions as well in terms of customer analysis and several other aspects. You see, when we say that we tend to think in terms of competition, keep this thought alive, but change the perspective on meeting the competition halfway, that means fighting with the competition. You keep an eye on competition to bypass the competition. Many a times you would find several examples when Patanjali came in, they acknowledged every competition they have or they might have, but then while keeping that acknowledgement alive, they started producing products for bypassing the competition while positioning the products differently in front of the existing users and the non-users of those products as well, while focusing largely on non-users and then coming to the users of competitors or users of customers as well. I would not say that they snatched the customers from their competitors or they fought for those customers. They either sold another product to those customers while adding on completely different users to their bracket of customers. So, that can also be done, and it is slightly difficult to understand in terms of consumer products. In terms of durables and larger products, it is slightly easier to understand, and you will see this perspective with lots of insight, lots of practical evidence in terms of, let us say, educational courses, in terms of different forms and types of vehicles also, in terms of one of my favorite examples like Honda Activa and so on. So, this makes our discussion slightly complete in terms of competition, beyond competition and co-opetition. Keep thinking about this. Now onwards, whenever you look around, look for competition, co-opetition, find about that, and look for beyond competition as well. Try to find out that there is a product which is not focusing on the customer of the similar products, but looking for someone else. Can you find such products? If you can, start enumerating those. I will be talking about several aspects about on strategy, product based strategies, product related strategies and product management at large in my subsequent sessions, and I will be seeing you once again with another insightful session next time. Till then, goodbye.